Okay, the first thing we want to do is we want to open up Internet Explorer. We want to log in to ETO software. We do not want to save our password ever. Okay, so the first thing you'll need to decide when running a data validation report is what site you want to look at the data errors. You can look at more than one site, but you'll probably need to contact the TCHC HMIS office to help you get that set up. The scope of this particular walkthrough is just going to be showing you how to select a particular site and then a program or the site's data errors. So today we're going to look at the HMIS administration site. In the data validation report, you probably want to go ahead and log into the program that you're concerned contains the data errors. So I'm going to select this new user training program because I think there's some data errors in there. Okay, so now that we've logged into our site and our program, what we want to do now is we want to go to Reports over here in the main menu. And then we want to go down to Manage HMIS Data Validations right here. Now, if you do not have this option available to you, please contact the TCHC HMIS office. We want to make sure that everyone in the continuum is able to run this report. So we're going to go ahead and select Manage HMIS Data Validations. And it's going to open up and it's going to give you a history of all the data validations that have been run in this site by different users. We can see the validation ID. Each time a data validation is run, it's given an ID, the name of the program or program group or site that was used to pull the data on, the date range for which the data was the data validation pull was run, whether it completed. A little check mark means it's done. The version, so the CSV version format, which we may talk about a little bit later. Who requested it? In this case, it was my staff, Jaqueline. The date the report completed. And then this little recycle icon. Now, this is a trick for you. After you have run one report with about the data validation that you want to know, you can just come in here and hit this recycle icon, and it will use all that same stuff you selected and just restart the report. And that will make sense here make more sense here in a minute when we look at how to actually run a data validation report. So let's do that. So to run a data validation report, you're going to hit Run Validation. And it's going to give you a few drop-down boxes. The first one is what version of the data do you want to look at? For us, right now, this is before October 2016, we want to use the 4.1. So we select 4.1, then we're going to select our scope. So if I select this option, this program, and this is a fun little ETO bug. So if you get this box blanked out like that, you have to back up by going to the Manage HMIS Data Validations. Yes, you want to leave the page. Restart your report creation by hitting Run Data Validation. Select the 4.1 again. And then what we wanted to do was select this program. Just know you can also create a program group. This is for those program managers that want to look at data errors across two sites. So let's say you have some data errors, let's just say the drop-in shelter 1 and the drop-in shelter 2, and you want to look at both of them put together. If you feel you need to do that, probably just get with the HMIS office and we will help you set that up. But coming back to it. We just want to select this program right now, and what this is going to do, it's going to pull all the data errors in this new user training program. It knows to pull from the new user training program because that's how we're logged in. So if you want to pull from a different program, you would need to log into that program and then run the same HMIS data validation. So today we're going to use a date range of a month. So let's say July 7th, 2015 to August 1st, 2015. Right? Did we want to do that? Well, let's make it 16. I'm not sure that program was open in 15. Okay, so what this is going to do is going to pull all those data errors in this new user training program that were the data error was active during that range. So we hit submit. And you notice we get kicked back to the previous screen. It has a new data validation ID that's being run. It has our new user training program, our date range, and you may have saw that was queued for processing, meaning it hadn't started yet. But now it has started. Now, something that's very important to note is that our continuum of care shares these a queue for running these data validation reports. So if Thomas starts his data validation report like I just did, then a case manager down at the Presbyterian Night Shelter starts one. It will not begin to pull the data validation report for the Presbyterian Night Shelter until mine completes. So it's a shared queue, it's a shared line. So just keep that in mind. If your data validation report doesn't start right away, it's probably because there's quite a few other people running that validation report at the same time. Okay, coming back to it. Now you can see it didn't take very long to complete. It only takes 30-40 seconds for a 1 month's data for one program. Now, if you wanted to pull for our entire system for a year, that's probably going to take maybe a day. So. Okay, anyways, it's completed. We know it's completed because we have a little check, right? That means done. We can see that I own it. So now what we want to do, you're going to get these take action buttons down here at the end. And the button that we want to focus in on is this report button. So let's select that. After you click the reporting button, you should get another window opening up that looks something like this. If you don't see this little whirly-do right here, there's a possibility that Java is not enabled on your computer, so you may need to get with your IT department to get that set up. If your IT department has any troubles, they're welcome to reach out to the TCHC HMIS office and we can help them. So now that the report has completed and pulled, the first thing the HMIS office does is we bring this down into Excel because it's a little easier to work with. And you can do that by going up here to the document button and the little arrow next to it. It's real small. But you click on that, and you come down to Save to my computer as Excel 2007. And when you select this, it's going to pop up a little bar at the bottom that asks you how you want to save that. And you're going to go to the Save button, and don't click it, but the little arrow next to it, you click that, and you're going to save it as. And a best practice here is to name the file based upon the program that you pulled the data from. So for us, this was the new user training program. And then the date range that we pulled it for. I think it was July 1st, 2016 to August 1st, 2016. And once you've entered that, you're going to hit save. And it saves that file, and you're going to hit open folder, and what that will do is it will open the desktop folder where you've saved that file. So now you're going to open up that Excel file, and it's going to give you all those data errors in Excel. Alright, we're almost there. Now the first thing that the HMIS office does is a little cleanup. We delete these rows up here at the top, and I will show you why in just a moment. And we delete this column over here to the left. And once that's done, then we select all the blue headers up there at top. And we come over to this button here that says Sort Filter. And we select a filter. And what that does is it puts these little arrows next to each one of the header names. And now what you can do is you can come in here and you can select, let's use the error description. You can select the little arrow next to it, and it's going to list out all the different types of data errors contained in there. And let's say you wanted to focus on just the date of birth error type. Then you can unselect all of them and select just that date of birth error type. And when you do that, it's going to remove all the ones that are not date of birth errors and leave just the ones that are. So as you can see here, all the data error types are date of birth. Okay, so let's really start digging into this report and see how it's useful for us. The first thing you may notice is that the error description tells you what type of error it is. So the client is missing a value for date of birth. And then if you go to the right of that, you're going to get their case number, their name, where what program the data error is located, what site that data error is located, and then all the way over to the right is the reason for that data error. And so this says it's missing a demographic value. So that means that if you navigate to the new user training program and you look up Jennifer Jackson, on her demographic page, she is missing a demographic value in the date of birth. So that's kind of how you read that. So by navigating there and entering a value in that date of birth box and saving it, you would have removed this data error from the system. So anyways, that's how you pull the actual data validation report. And you can work through it in all different manners. Some program managers will filter to each one of their programs and then send that filtered copy to the program manager over that program. If you're running it as a case manager, you may want to filter down to just your program and look at your data errors, however you want to slice it up. But hopefully this shows you, or hopefully this will be a useful tool for you in quickly identifying data errors so that you can correct them. So that's really it. That's all there is to running a data validation report. Do remember, well, one of the best practices that we found is as you're going through correcting data errors, go ahead and refresh that data validation report pretty consistently. So correct a few errors, run it again. And the reason for that is because if you are assuming what you're doing is correcting a data error and not actually checking, there's instances where maybe what you have done was not the way to solve that data error, and unfortunately in your efforts to correct things you've actually caused more data errors. That's been an issue. So the best thing to do is run the report, identify the data error, go to correct it, and after you've corrected a few of those, run it again to see if they go away. If they're not showing up on that data validation report, then you've corrected the data errors so that you can be certain what you're doing is actually fixing the problem. We also encourage program managers and case managers and intake specialists and whatever your role is, run this as consistently as you can, whether it be once a week or once a month. Remember, if there are data errors found in your program, then it's going to prevent your program manager or your director from pulling that data out of HMIS and submitting it to their funding source successfully. Now, that one last bit here, there's a trick. If you want to run the report again, but you don't want to have to type in that CSV version type and then the date range again, you can just go back into ETO. Let me see if I can pull that up quickly. You can come back into ETO and you can hit this little refresh button right here. And remember, this is the validation that we've just pulled. And by clicking that refresh button and saying continue, it's basically re-pulling that same report. So this is how you can correct a few data errors and then check and see if what you've done is actually successfully remove that error from the system. And then you just continue that process. And that's it. We appreciate everybody's hard work and all that you do.